Hello, hi everyone, and welcome to Experience Matters show. Like today, we go live every Friday at 10 a.m. IST, and that's 12:30 p.m. SGT. So the goal here is that we talk about everything connected to the CX, the trends in the CX industry. Basics on how you can create and build your CX programs. And we also bring in industry experts to help you learn from their experiences. So that gives me a good segue. And today's show is really no different. We've got the team from Mobile Premier League, MPL, Shitij, who's part of the Consumer Insights team at MPL, and Himanshu Singhal, who's the CX lead for MPL, right? Thank you so much for taking your time to be here on the show today. How's it going?
Thanks, Shibani, for having us here. A little unwell, I would say. I'm still trying to recover from my COVID. I think I have that. I am going to get the reports today. But yeah, I mean, I think my body is telling me to kind of get back into the mode and not feel unwell. And that's why I thought, joining your show would help a little.
Yeah, I mean that is, I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming on the show. I know you've been unwell. We've been friends for decades now, so I kind of strong-armed you into joining the show, but really appreciate it. Yeah, and thank you for being here, Shitij. You can take the rest of the day off for the next half an hour. You have to push through it, and you can just take the rest of the day off. Himanshu, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for inviting us. It's a pleasure to be here. I've watched your previous shows and they have been really useful.
Awesome.
Because of the understanding that it developed about what other companies are doing.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Right. So we're on season 2, episode 4, and I think we're closing in on the 15 episodes now. So thank you for saying that. We've got industry experts who've joined. We've got quite a few people, from researchers to CXOs as well who joined the show. So it's good to get feedback as well. For all of y'all who've joined us live, I know we stream across multiple platforms. Feel free to add in your comments. If you have questions for the team, the team has been in the industry for a while. They'll be happy to field your questions on the live show itself. In case we can't get to it on the live show, we will definitely reach out to you individually and answer your questions and reply to your comments as well. So the more you can participate, the better the show is going to be. So looking forward to your questions as well. Shall we kick it off? Do you
Sure.
with
Yeah.
the show of what we've
Absolutely.
planned today? Perfect. So Shitij, we can start with you. Like I said, we've been friends for over a decade now, and because I know you've just been in the industry for so many years, right? Both on the client side, both on the agency side, and worked with clients across industries, retail and e-commerce, and running brand studies for them and all of that. How is working with a gaming platform different? How has the industry has really been different?
Yeah. So to answer your question, Shivani, this industry is too dynamic. Things
Yeah.
changes with a blink of an eye. Most of the brands I've worked before, even at the agency side, they were well-established brand in the market and they have big presence. So things work very differently out there. Since this is also a kind of this is also definitely a product-based company, but
Mm-hmm.
the way people think out there about gaming, it's absolutely different, and from how the brands, FMCG brands thinks about their product, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's always we always starts from our gamers itself, right?
Yeah.
Whereas FMCG brands might think of packaging, making it
Mm.
attractive for consumers, right? Not considering product to be the main hero of their of their brand. But over
Mm.
here we
Mm.
do starts with consumer itself, and whatever they kind of feeling and whatever they want us to do, and then we go ahead and make stuff for them.
Yeah. So it really is an industry where the it's so customer centric. It is everything to do with the gamers, to do with you always start from there. So y'all have got quite a few of the Question Pro products that you're running internally with your research. You've got your CX and research and audience piece as well. What is it that y'all are doing different at MPL, right? Is there anything where you're that just been different from what you've been running before with your other typical BFSI or retail clients?
Yeah, I think one of the things which has happened in last 2 years, that the consumer in India, not only in the cities but tier and tier two cities as well, have become hyper connected to internet. They're doing stuff which they have not been doing back in 2 years back, uh,
Yeah.
and they're indulging with so many different platforms, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things we thought of, and why we thought of so was because we were getting a lot of feedback from
Mm-hmm.
consumers from different ways without even us asking them anything, right? It
Mm.
was kind of they were coming to us from all sort of different uh, places, telling us and shouting things at us. We
Mm.
thought, like, I mean, these are kind of users who really, who are very serious about us improving, right? So
Mm.
why not provide them with something and collect them at a place where they feel belonging to kind of a community, and we call them research community now,
Mm-hmm.
where they can tell us things well in advance. And because these guys are very serious about our growth and ask for us to improve, right? So
Yeah.
when we did that, we used one of your modules, and we got them into one place. And when we started our research activities with them, the kind of data we got was absolutely brilliant, right? Because
Mm.
the OE in India, how how the quality of OEs we get in one of the any of our survey, because those are very linear interaction. Even if you go to any panel service in India and take the surveys, and those are like one of interaction with those
Yeah.
users, right? But when we started sending surveys to these guys, the quality of OEs, the kind of insights we can generate was extremely powerful.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think community is something which brands should think about in India, right? Making
Yeah.
these small research community about their brands, get the people onboarded on these platforms, so that they can harness the power of what these consumers want to tell you.
Yeah, yeah, it's really taking the voice of the customer and acting upon it into overdrive, right? It's the best way to actually hear from them, and making sure that you give them a platform where their voice is really being heard, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
times, like you mentioned, there's just surveys that are being sent out, and people are taking the time out to give their responses, and then just no one actions upon them, right? It's just a waste of
Right.
time from the company side as well as from the consumer side. So yeah, having that community there is definitely helpful. It just gives them a sounding board to give in their suggestions, give in their recommendations. Like you said, very often the recommendations are very actionable, right? It is they're the ones who are using it, so they know what they want, and the recommendations definitely, we're able to take that forward. With that, I mean, Himanshu, I know there's just so much, right? Like Shitij said, from the communities, you're getting so many recommendations that just you can action upon them. How do you drive the ownership within MPL? Because MPL, I know, is starting off, but the team is growing so quickly. How do you get them to, really take this on, believe in the data that's coming from the research, and improving the product based on that?
I think to size the problem for us, essentially, the team has grown almost 6x in
Yeah,
about, I would say about a year's time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so the challenge is huge.
Mm,
Essentially, let's start with defining what is ownership. Essentially, ownership
mm,
is knowing, first of all, what is expected of you, and
mm,
then do people go beyond what they are told to achieve those objectives?
yeah,
And I think it all starts from defining some kind of a sense of purpose, kind of thinking beyond the boundaries and the silos that people work in. And it all starts from defining there are two type of problems. One is big business problems, like a cost of acquiring customers,
Mm.
retention of users, right? Big problems for business.
Yeah.
There are big user problems which can also happen, where users essentially are looking for, let's say, more exciting games. They are
Mm.
looking for opportunities to engage with their friends in a
Mm.
gaming world, right? These are big user side problems. They want to engage socially. Essentially, when
Yeah.
the COVID hit, people were looking for
Mm.
other opportunities where they can build newer communities. So around that set of problems, if the first thing is that you give that exposure to people about what the big
Mm.
problems are, and there are various
Mm.
forums to drive it. There are essentially forums where if there is a business performance review. There are sessions where the vision of the company, the sense, the why the company itself exists, that is extremely transparently told to everyone,
Mhm.
right? Then the second part is, when after understanding the purpose, second is, the sense of significance of a role,
Yeah.
which is,
Mhm.
every role, every job is important, right?
Yeah.
And how does your essentially role work fit into the bigger purpose of the company? I think
Mm.
that connect is really required for
Yeah.
a lot of people, especially new folks who have
Yeah.
not seen how the company has gone through the struggles, right, to
Mm.
reach where it is. So not to be very complacent about where we are, but to see,
Mm.
what are the future goals and the overall purpose of the team. There
Mm.
are a lot of things that MPL does. From the way the values itself are defined,
Mm.
right? We have values
Mm.
about around where the ownership itself, the values have that piece, which is, let's say, freedom to choose, right?
Yeah.
You're giving them essentially ownership of the goals. You are giving
Yeah.
them the freedom to choose,
Yeah.
and then the second is courage to act. So
Yeah. Mm.
essentially, just don't look at silos. Look at, what else can you do to achieve those goals, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
back of others, right? Being able to
Yeah.
trust that other people are having your back. So this is
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
The
Mm.
second is, there are the third. In fact, so the first is the sense of purpose. The second is the sense of significance. The third piece is more like three C's, where it is, what the communication to people,
Mm.
the connect that you have, and the third is the celebration of success, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I take them one by one, so connect essentially is that you have multiple level connects. If you work
Mm.
within your silos, you become echo chambers. You
Mm.
think in a certain way, you work in a certain way, but you don't understand what are your blind spots. So having those connects with other folks, having those connects
Mm.
with leadership, right? That gives you some sense of direction, whether you are moving in the right direction or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there are connects which are happening with your managers, with your one-on-ones. There are connects that there's a 360-degree feedback mechanism as well, right? So you
Yeah.
get to know how other people view your work.
Mm.
And
Mm.
second is communication. Essentially, a lot of 360-degree feedback. Essentially, very very high frequency. A lot of feedback process takes place in
Mm.
the
Mm.
company, where everyone, not whether it is individual performer, IC role, or he's a manager, they get to
Mm.
understand what are their strengths, weaknesses, what is expected of them on a regular
Yeah.
basis. And last is celebration of success, because that's very very important. People want to be recognized if they have done good work, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are opportunities for in MPL, people who have done really great work, they are recognized in a regular frequent level, and people can also recognize on some of the tools that we use. They can
Mm.
recognize any, if people have gone beyond their call of duty to help someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
That essentially brings together a sense of, again, it also drives a sense of purpose, a sense of camaraderie with other folks, and
Yeah.
overall ownership itself gets driven, so people
Yeah.
would go beyond what they are told to do in such a
Yeah.
circumstances. That's how MPL is driving ownership within MPL.
Yeah, yeah. I love it, right? All of the points that you said, that just having access to the data, being able to action upon the data themselves, having the ability to just make those calls themselves, and then just get rewarded for it at the end of the day, right? Just get
Yeah,
appreciated for the end of the day. It's like I said, the whole 360 reward system, and then the 360 itself, right, where you can get to see what others are saying about you, what they feel about what your work is. All of that is important in building out this whole ownership it is a lot of time leadership driven, right? It is top down driven as well. And luckily for MPL, very clearly there is leadership buy-in. They take it seriously. They know how to run the company, which is why it's doing so well, right? But in terms of research, right? In terms of the insight, so we had done, I'll tell you where I'm coming from, right? We had done a recent presentation with MPL where we were giving them, the industry insights and competition
Yes.
insights, and really what are the recommendations and suggestions that were coming from the customers. And we had given, split it by the different teams. And for the product team, we'd given them, 10 things that the customers are saying that they wanted to see improvements on the product. How do they take that? How do they digest it? How do you build out and prioritize your road plan for it?
So I would kind of break this into two parts. One, if we have to talk about product development process, there are usually three stages where a product team would need inputs. Right? The first
Yeah.
stage is when they are trying to define the problem. What is the user problem? Right? There is user data, and so they look at various product funnels. They would see that where the product funnels are falling, but they may not
Yeah.
have the answer why the product funnel is not moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, what is the problem that the user is facing at that particular stage, right?
Yeah.
The second is while discovery of the solution is happening, right? Which is the right solution that will work against that problem, right? And the third is when the solution has been formulated, it has been released, then getting feedback. What do users feel about this solution, right?
Yeah.
It's also more like taking the user feedback right at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of whether it's a feature, whether it is any goal that the product team is trying to chase. And the
Yeah.
second is giving, and the second is, this is more around, let's say, features, but the
Mm-hmm.
other is how, as a team, or as a what the user base, which is very loyal, which is using your product, feel on a regular basis. If given a chance, would they shift to another product? Will they
Yeah.
recommend your product to someone else in their friends or family? Because that's how the organic growth is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I think those inputs essentially, which in fact the study that we did with you as well, so that was very, very insightful. And the way we work is we take those studies. A lot of product managers are also looking for insights.
Yeah.
They want to seek information that they already don't have, and this
Mm-hmm.
kind of studies puts it in a very succinct manner, in a very comprehensive, holistic manner, as to what problem should they prioritize first,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That will give them the maximum amount of benefit. If they touch on a wrong problem, essentially the cost of failure is very high, because you lose a lot of time, you lose that competitive advantage that you are having, and it's usually few months, or maybe few quarters of advantage that you have over others in certain cases. So you are
Yeah.
looking at building upon your strengths from time to time, and the
Mm-hmm.
research study essentially gets built into the product development process. Both the parties, fortunately, in MPL, recognize the importance of each other.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
research team also works with product development team on a very proactive basis.
Mm.
The other aspect is, the people are looking for very quick feedback. So on one
Yeah.
hand, we may have quarterly studies. On the
Mm.
other hand, we are looking for maybe a bi-weekly inputs,
Yeah.
or a
Mm.
weekly inputs of, okay, we made certain changes, right,
Yeah.
at certain
Mm.
places. What do users feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there we are also trying to build a community of
Yeah.
users that gives us inputs on a more frequent basis, that the other teams would love to use and
Mm-hmm.
course correct in the middle of the quarter as well.
Yeah. Got it.
So
Yeah.
that's where I think both the research and development, product development pieces are very much put together. But I guess Shitij can also add to what I'm saying here.
Yeah, no, and you can imagine the, when I said initially that how dynamic it is, you can imagine from how, we course correct in the middle of the quarter, and, it is very dynamic. That therefore the speed of inciting is extremely critical for us, no matter
Yeah.
where, but yeah, what we make sure is we are talking to the right set of people, because that,
Yeah.
if it goes wrong, the entire insights goes for a toss. So we have to be, we one thing we are very critical about, we are talking to the right set of audience.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
Shivani,
it's
what is
just
your
clear, right?
experience? What is your
Yeah.
experience of, how do other, you have done a lot of research for other teams as well, right?
Yeah,
Other
yeah, yeah.
projects. So how do other teams kind of build this research into the product development process?
Yeah, so it is. I mean, from what I've worked with y'all, and also just what you've been saying today, right? It's just so clear how MPL as an organization itself is this whole customer-centric organization. It's just really lovely to see it, right? Because a lot of other clients that we work with, Question Pro, it's a technological first solution, right? We have platforms that we share with everyone, and a lot of clients are kind of building out that culture. They've started off, and they've just been around in the market for so long, they've realized the need for it, and using the help of our platform, kind of building out that whole culture within the organization, right? Making sure every department in the organization has access to this data, things like that. So whereas for MPL, the way it almost just seems like when you all started itself, you knew the value of it, and then just helped you all grow that much faster, use the the insights that are coming in that much quicker, been able to action upon it, work upon it, and just improve your product, giving your gamers a platform of really what they wanted, right?
In fact, from your study, we, in fact, as a outcome of that study, there are a couple of features which are actually getting released.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always
Yeah,
good to
yeah.
see, right? Even if we're not on the client side, but it's always great to get this feedback, making sure that the insights that we're sharing actually is getting put to use. A lot of times, unfortunately, it isn't. It just kind of, especially when you're looking at traditional market research, right? It kind of, the insights just kind of just sit there within that team, and it doesn't really get implemented. Changes a little bit when you're looking at platforms and all of that, where they're actually able to see the data in real time and actually action upon it. But yeah, having said that, it's really great. It's been a great episode, right? Because you've given like really actionable things that the teams can work on step by step, just to see how they can build that out. I know we have quite a few MPL fans, and I'm not sure how much you can share, but what is coming up? Are there anything exciting that you can and are authorized to share with the team, with all of our viewers?
Kshitij, would you like to take this
Any?
question?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm,
Yes, yes,
I'm,
yes.
yeah.
I'm just going.
Is,
Yeah, it does. So to answer your question, Mark, we initially thought there'll be a lot of bias when we kind of get pro gamers to form a community and take the feedback on. They might be talking all good things about it, but it is absolutely untrue because we always started from an emotional pitch
yeah.
of inviting them, telling them, hey, help us build MPL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in all the emails or communication we send to them, there is always an emotional pitch
Yeah.
to that particular game, to that particular topic. And that's where we start from, and which kills all the biasness and the kind of response we get. It's also, critical, not, and we, shy away asking them any performance based questions. They are
Yeah.
mostly, you know, they're mostly open ends and kind of asking them to what do they think about a particular format. If we introduce this format, do you think it'll be better than the previous format? So these questions are not performance based or rating based questions. These are basically questions on their current formats or experience they're having, and if we introduce something new, or what should we do in future to kind of make their experience better. So that kills all
Yeah.
the biasness, and the response is very critical rather than being biased on towards us.
Yeah, perfect. So there is, a question that's come up in terms of, there's a lot of co-creation that is seen amongst your promoters, but they want to know what the impact is of the hyper personalization of your surveys that go out. Himanshu, Shitij, any comments on that?
Yeah, so I would define more co-creation as doing something, taking an action,
Mm-hmm.
getting a feedback from the users in a relatively accelerated manner, and course
Mm-hmm.
correcting as quickly as possible, where the user sees that there is a value attached to the feedback that he had given, And I think
Yeah.
in this entire process, there's a lot of trust that gets built with the users, and that's what we have seen, that based on the research studies, that people who are, you kind of turn the tables,
Yeah.
Hmm.
because the users, if they are unhappy and you reach
Mm.
out to them,
Mm.
and then you take their feedback and you course correct, then
Mm.
essentially their level of loyalty and the tendency to, instead of criticizing, giving valuable inputs, I think that
Mhm.
changes a lot. And I think research team as such, without
Mm.
knowing it, has been doing it since they started this
Yeah.
year, of bringing in loyalty, bringing in retention of users, without, by just taking feedback from them, and
Yeah.
telling them also, right? It's
Mm.
There are new features which are being released. So once you
Mm.
listen to the problems, you have, let's say, two options with you.
Mm.
So after listening to the problem, you give them two options, and you can see the joy in the users,
Yeah.
the way they behave, that,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, this is exactly we need. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
do and go and implement it, please.
Yeah. 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 It's brilliant, right? Just to see that immediate response to something that they've asked for. So yeah, that's perfect. And no other better way to get a promoter for your brand, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Kshitij team, I would say, is doubling up as a retention role,
Yeah.
delight, customer delight.
Yeah. 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 As any research team should be, right? That ideally at the end of the day they should be doubling up as that as well. So that's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Himanshu, Shitij. Any closing thoughts, and then we can wrap up the show?
So,
No.
it
No,
has
I
been
just wanted to
great.
go
Yeah, sure.
first.
Go on, Kshitij.
Yeah. No, no, no. You go on first. I mean,
So I think very pertinent questions that, for the gaming world, innovation, right? Gaming
Mm.
industry is so dynamic right now that there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of innovation which is happening outside, inside MPL as well.
Yeah.
And the second is, the ownership that you drive, with a lot of ambiguity which comes along with it,
Yeah.
in a startup kind of culture where the company is growing crazy, new people are
Mm-hmm.
getting added on a regular basis, and
Mm-hmm.
then, the how do you still keep user at the center of it, and research
Yeah.
team, the kind of role that it plays by building products that the user needs. I think
Yeah.
these are all the relevant problems for a growing startup like MPL.
Yeah, thank you. You summed it up beautifully for me. Yeah, and with that, Kshitij, anything? I know you're dying to just rest up rest up your voice. But anything to end the show?
no, I think I second Himanshu by saying that, yeah, I think yeah, it is an innovative industry, and I think well researched products in this industry will change the future of this industry, no matter how different innovation outside can come in. But I think the well researched products with the customers at the heart will definitely give you success in this industry.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I know. And there's just so much that our viewers could have taken away from this episode. Thank you so much, Himanshu and Kshitij, for taking your time to be on this show. Down the line, I'm definitely going to invite you guys to come back on the show. So looking forward to that. Rest up, stay
Thank you,
safe.
Shibani. Thank you for inviting us.
Thanks, Shivani. Yeah, thank you
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Bye, everyone.